In today's episode, we will be discussing the hit documentary on Netflix called The Social Dilemma. Hey, what's up?
I'm the Coder Kid.
And I'm Mr. Miyagi, and welcome to our show. So, what is The Social Dilemma? What is the whole humbug about it?
Yeah, so The Social Dilemma is kind of doom and gloom about social media. So, and it's not all bad. There's some good to it, but it kind of goes over some of the drawbacks and that social media has created, whether it was intentional or not.
Right.
It's just something that it did.
Right. So, before you watch the show, though, what do you think were the positives and negatives of social media?
Yeah, so some of the positives I like about social media, or what I use it for, and really I'm a bad social media person because I only have a Facebook.
Right.
I'm not really part in YouTube, but that's not really part. Is like the connection for family and friends.
Right.
It's really easy to connect with people that I may have veered away from in high school, or just family I don't see that often. They can kind of keep up with me, and I can kind of keep up with them.
Yeah. Well, for me, being an elder statesman, I found that social media was giving me the ability to connect with old high school friends, and the gap between where I am today in high school is far greater than yours, of course, because I'm older. But we didn't have we didn't have the technology that the younger generation has today. So for us, it was this new exciting thing to be able to connect with your old high school friends and see how they're doing, how they've progressed over their years and their careers, and how many kids they've had, if they've been married or anything like that. But really, you get to see the old prom king and prom queen, what they're up to today. So for us, it was really exciting. And those were all the good positive things initially about social media, but let's talk about some negatives.
Well, I went over some negatives.
Well, yeah, but we went over negatives, but the before we watched the show, what, in your opinion, what were negatives about social media as you started to use it more and more?
Oh, maybe I didn't go over negatives. So some of the negatives that I think is like, we're competing for likes, right? So we'll either compete for likes, dislikes, we're really trying to hit that. For friends, maybe we're counting how many social media friends as opposed to like real life friends we have.
Yeah.
And we're rushing to go on trips so we can get good pics for Insta and stuff.
Yeah.
Which is just crazy to me, but
but for me, negatives turned out to be, as I started to get more and more engaged in social media, I started spending more and more time on my phone.
Addicted,
and I kind of got addicted to it, and I even had in some of my relationships where my significant other was like, it'd be nice if you just put the phone down and talk, when we're eating dinner or something, and or not even get on your phone while you're at dinner, So I found myself being more and more engaged. And it began to affect me negatively, in my relationships and things like that, and then I started, wanting to gather as many friends as I could, and I really didn't even know them. I never really met some of these people that were sending me friend requests. Oh, immediate like, because now I have 1,000 friends. Wow, So I started to see some negative things that were happening in my life. So those were things that I started to see before I even started, before I even watched the social dilemma. But it really started to affect my life, and it wasn't so positive after all. So
not all good.
No, not all good.
So let's dive into the algorithms and what their intention is.
Yeah, for social media.
So that's what this kind of goes into first. When you get in, it talks about algorithms and how they're not intended to be evil. They didn't. You hear all the time it kind of drives depression or making kids more depressed. But that's not the actual goal of it. What was the actual goal?
Well, the algorithms were to kind of get an idea of what a person's likes are, what their habits were, what they consumed as far as content goes. And as you started to consume content, it started to figure out things that you like, so it could feed you more things.
So
you
you'd
know.
stay on the device.
so you could stay
It
on the
wanted you
device.
engaged
Yes.
on Facebook all the time.
Right,
That's what they're
right.
driving. Because they could they could turn around and sell to their advertisers, hey, these dudes average 10 hours a day on my platform.
Right, and they look at this subject matter, which is
Yeah.
something that you happen to be selling.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah,
so
it's really good for them.
You know, and at first those algorithms, you know, they were really good. They you know, drove. They categorize your content and your likes, and they were
Right.
able to monetize that. Really,
Yep.
they were able to take what your habits were and monetize it. So
Yep.
you know, good, bad.
Right.
Initially good.
Yeah, and the one of the worst things about them is when you get off the device or get off the platform, you get notifications, and
Right.
that goes into keeping you engaged, trying to get you to come back,
Right.
no
right.
matter what it takes. So, like,
Mhm.
YouTube is pretty good at this. In my personal experience, I watch a lot of YouTube for just personal finance, NFL, coding stuff. And when I leave or close the app, I'll immediately get a thing that's like, "Hey, I think you might be interested in this video."
Right.
And 9 times out of 10, I am.
Right, right.
I'll get right back on
Right.
there.
Yeah, and you know, like you said, notifications initially started out to be a good thing, but then
Mhm.
you know, as you started getting more and more engaged, you know, you
Yeah.
can see that they're a bad thing because you could be sitting at dinner, like I gave the example
Yeah.
earlier. You know, you could be sitting at dinner and you're getting a notification and you're looking at it
Right.
and you're like, should I
Yeah.
look at it? Should I? Oh, I'm gonna, you know, just look, and then before you know it, you've spent 10 minutes when you're sitting at the dinner table with your family,
Yeah.
you know,
Right.
looking at your phone. You know.
And that touched on that example.
Oh, yeah.
I remember she put it in a cookie jar or a time jar, and the thing dinged, and she was like, "I gotta look at it
Yeah.
because it could be anything." And she
ended up
actually
breaking
broke
it.
open the thing. It was crazy.
Yeah, that was, yeah.
It did a really good job of illustrating like all these things.
Right, and that's the thing about the show is that it talked about these certain areas of social media, but then they also had real life, you know, this family that was going through the depiction of a family unit and how the kids were getting more and more enthralled into social media and stuff. So, you know, that was very interesting.
Yeah, so let's talk about that, the impact it has on our youth and our generation. So we know, you know, when you're younger, your brain isn't fully developed and you're getting thrown, hey, social media is the first thing you need to do when you're 9 years old, or
Right.
sometimes even earlier, I think.
Right.
Now.
Yeah.
So how does that kind of affect our youth? And
Well, you know, if you're a grown adult and you didn't grow up with technology, then your self-worth and everything that you are is already established.
Right.
But when you're a young child and you're online and you're posting pictures and someone makes a negative comment about,
Right.
you know, about you, then it tends to hit your psyche. And there was a really good example about that in the
Right.
show, how there was this young girl that had taken a picture of herself, and one of the comments, you know, that she had gotten on the picture was that her ears looked big.
Right, yeah.
You know, a lot of other good comments, her, you know,
Right.
cute smile, all this stuff, but
1,000 likes, but
Yeah.
this one comment she just latched onto, and
right.
it killed her for like a week. She would hide her ears
Yeah,
and stuff
yeah.
like that.
Even looking in the mirror,
Yeah.
and it depicted as you know, days went by in that particular example, how she started to look at herself in the mirror, and her self-worth and her self-image of herself was just shattered.
Yeah,
You know, to the point where she started crying and stuff like that.
Right.
You know, so
Yeah.
it's you know, social media can have a really big impact on the young kids today, and even bullying. You know,
for sure.
you know, if you're bullied at school, that's one thing. You know,
Right.
and back
But
in my
bringing
day,
it home, once you got home, you were safe.
Yeah, you were safe,
right?
yeah.
And now you're
it
not even
continues.
safe there.
Yeah, you continuously 24 hours a day you can
Yep.
possibly be bullied. You know,
Yeah,
and I'm sure that
that's terrible.
happens even today.
Yeah,
You
no,
know?
I think it's extreme now
Yeah,
because of that. Because usually you go home and you don't have to worry about it till 8 a.m. the next day. So it's you get some a breath of fresh air
Right,
if you're bullied.
right.
But now there's no escaping it unless you just turn off your device. But I mean,
Yeah.
kids
Yeah,
aren't doing that.
and you know, there was another really good example they talked about, which was they called it the rabbit hole. You know, where
we called it. I don't know if they called it the rabbit hole, but yeah, that's
well,
what I
yeah,
call
basically
it.
it is the rabbit hole where, you know, if you started consuming a certain article, you got a notification about this article that you might be interested in, and you started, you know, reading it, and you spent time, The algorithms we mentioned are tracking all of this,
Right.
and you read this article, and the next thing you know, you get something else about the
You'll
about that
keep
subject
getting
matter.
posts related to that
Right.
because you're already a little bit interested in it.
Mhm.
Which kind of goes into like if you're a kid and you're feeling a little depressed, or an adult, I guess, if you're already a little depressed, you'll be engaged in that just by nature in that depressing thing, and it'll catch you and it'll send you more of that stuff, just making you go further and further into depression.
Right.
So that kind of we can piggyback off that into the like politics and conspiracy theories. So they had this
Yes.
example of Kyrie Irving, which is an NBA basketball player. If you're not, he played for the Cavs, and then now he plays for the Nets. But he believed the Earth was flat, and I knew that part about him. But what they were saying is he got to that from social media because of this rabbit hole effect. That he was already susceptible to conspiracy theories, like dinosaurs aren't real, or whatever, and he was already, so he got stuff on the flat earth thing, and he just fell through that and supposedly ended up apologizing for it. I don't know if that's true or not. I don't recall that part.
Yeah, I just remember in the documentary, he was in a Q&A session, and I think that it was kind of like an apology in that area, but I don't know if it was really an apology, but he addressed the Earth being flat controversy and things like that, and he mentioned it, on social media that that's where he got it from and things like that. But it not only does the rabbit hole take you into things like the Earth being flat. Think about it in politics. If you're a right wing. I know.
An elder white male.
Yeah, if you're a right wing conservative and all you do is consume conservative content, you could possibly be taken down this deep rabbit hole of pure right and left evil articles and things like that. And if you're on the left, you get all of this,
just more
pro-left stuff that has, and you're not, and all you're informed about is conspiracy theories, left side views, and right conspiracies, right side views, and things like that. So, I think today in our country we've never been more divided because of it.
Yeah, they mentioned that we're so divided now because of that, because you get in the rabbit hole, and you only see stuff from that side because it showed, like, even if you were only leaning left, but you're still a centrist, like you get more of that left stuff causing you to drift further in the left.
Yes.
Whether your views are really that or not, they're kind of changing them, you know. And that was a scary part for me. So we're so divided, like there's a lot of Republicans and a lot of Democrats, and the in between, like there's not so many of, is what they were saying.
Yeah, and I think because of social media, we've kind of lost the fact that we're all Americans, and we're Americans first, and then there's party affiliations and things like that, and and for me personally, I've seen a lot of my friends, that have kind of gone on one side or the other, and I see them bickering at each other, and just in the last 5 years. Friends that I've been friends with for 10 years, we used to go out and drink and have a good time and go to birthday parties, pool parties. We no longer do that because everybody's divided between left and right.
They'll unfriend you and stuff like that. It's like, wow, just for views they have and you don't, or whatever. It's pretty crazy.
And for me, I've tried to kind of level off my, I'm not going to say what my party affiliation is, but I have tried to level off on it and see both sides and try and understand both stances, left and right. And I think that's the best approach that you can possibly do. And if you get into a really bad, online argument with your friends, make a lighthearted comment. Hey, it's just politics. We're still friends. Let's go have a beer, or let's go do something, so. But
I think this documentary kind of went into why Silicon Valley or tech people limit their kids' screen time, and something that we should all think about doing just personally, not only with our kids, but with ourselves. So this became like water cooler talk at work, and a lot of developers and tech people in tech were really involved in this. So we're like, hey, we may as well make a video about it.
Right. Yeah.
So-
And there's a lot of really good things at the end that talk about regulation and should social media
where we
be
go
regulated.
moving forward.
Yeah. So it leaves a lot of food for thought on what the future of social media could possibly be, and
definitely leave your comments in the below and what your thoughts about the whole thing is.
Yeah, make sure you see it too. It's it's very eye opening. So
Yep.
I guess we'll close it with that.
Appreciate it.
All right, thank you.